What's up nerds, my name is Abdul Nafe and welcome back to a brand new video. And in this one we're going to be learning how to make this amazing render inside of Unreal Engine 5. Now this tutorial is mainly made for Unreal beginners who have very little experience inside of Unreal Engine 5. However, you will be expected to know the basics like navigating the viewport, using the move tool, rotate tool, etc. In this video, we're going to be covering the basics of importing models from Blender, texturing, lighting, and rendering inside of Unreal Engine 5. Now, even if you are an Unreal Engine 5 intermediate user, I would still recommend you to watch this video because it's filled with useful tips and tricks which will help you simplify your workflow. So if you want to take your Unreal Engine 5 skills to the next level, then start this class today. Thank you.
Alright, so now we're going to be making an interior, and the main thing for the interior is for you to get a very good reference. So I just found this reference right here, and I'm going to be sort of making the artwork inspired by this reference. You can obviously choose any reference which you want, but what I want you to do is I want you to spend a lot of time on finding the reference and find a reference which you want your render to be very close to, because the thing is, in interior design, unless you are a professional interior designer, what I would recommend you to do is to basically almost sort of copy the layouts of these professionals. Actually, not copy, I would say sort of be inspired by them and use the layouts which they use. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that you need to spend a lot of time in sort of finding the reference, the perfect reference which you want your render to be based on, right? So yeah, without any further ado, let's start. So firstly, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be finalizing my reference. So this is my reference right here, and I'm just going to be opening this image in a new tab. And so I can just basically use this properly as a reference, and I can obviously use the Pinterest tab to basically find secondary references, right? Because obviously it's not ideal to work from just one reference. You can use apps like PureRef and stuff like that, but I prefer to do it inside of Chrome. I think it's just more convenient, if that makes sense. Right. So also we're going to be using Blender for the assets, or you can obviously download assets from the internet as well. However, it would be recommended for you to basically know at least the basics of Blender and BlenderKit and other add-ons like that, right? But if you don't know like even the basics of Blender, I'm just going to be teaching you exactly how to use it in just a bit, right? So let me just first go ahead and create a new Unreal project. So you can just go to Games and create a new blank project. Make sure that ray tracing is turned on, because that's going to make your render that's going to make your scene look a lot more realistic. But you do need to have an NVIDIA RTX graphic card for this. If you don't have an NVIDIA RTX graphic card, then you can feel free to just turn it off. But do note that you might need to spend some more time and effort on the lighting part to make it look a lot more realistic, right? It's not going to look that good by default. Anyway, so I'm not going to be creating a new project. I'm just going to be opening one of my recent projects. The reason why I'm doing this is because I have most of the assets which I need already imported. So I'm just going to be using those assets, right? And yeah, I have all the materials and stuff like that imported, so I'm not going to waste your time trying to import them again. So let me just open this project. And while Unreal Engine is opening, you can just simply search for sort of the furniture or the assets which you want in your scene, right? So firstly, I want a sofa. So I'm just going to search for sofa 3D model. And I usually use Sketchfab for this because Sketchfab gives you really nice results. And you can even get some pre-made sort of rooms from this, which you can use, which you can maybe extract the assets from and create your own stuff. Or you can maybe even just download a whole sofa set, something like that. I think that's going to look pretty good. Or you can just simply download individual assets as well. So you basically have a lot of these options to download as assets. So I think you can maybe just download whichever one you like. How about something like this maybe? Yeah, so once you have decided which asset you want to download, you can just simply open that in Sketchfab, and then you can just click download 3D model, and then make sure to download it in FBX format, because that's pretty easy to open inside of Unreal Engine, and just wait for it to download, and then we can just open it in Unreal Engine. And while that is happening, we can just simply open Blender as well. And I'm going to be showing you how to import assets from Blender as well. So what I'm going to do for Blender is that I'm just going to create a new project. I'm just going to delete everything. And so we have this BlenderKit add-on installed. If you don't have this BlenderKit add-on installed, you can just simply go to the internet, search for blenderkit.com, and then you can just download BlenderKit. And make sure that you have Blender downloaded, of course, and then you can just follow these instructions to install the add-on. And once you have that add-on installed, you can just simply go and search whatever you want inside of BlenderKit. So I'm just going to be searching for something like sofa, and I'm just going to go to search filters and click on free first. And so now you're going to see that we have all these free assets which look pretty good. So Now it's basically up to us which asset we choose. Let me just go back to my reference and let's see what kind of sofa is this. Okay, so this is more like cloths. It's sort of like a um living room sofa. I want something a little more fancy. So maybe something like that. How about that? I think that's going to be good. Yeah, let's go with that because that has a lot of wrinkles as well, which make it look very realistic. So I think we're going to go with that. And apart from that, let's download other assets as well. You can just, also by the way, in Blender, you can just click on an asset to start downloading. And now it's just going to start to download. Just wait for it to complete. Let's look at our reference while it's happening. We also need a coffee table. And so let's wait for this to download. Right, so now we have this sofa inside our scene. And it looks pretty decent, although it's pretty black, so I can't really tell. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Right, so now basically how exactly do we export assets outside of Blender and into Unreal Engine? It's pretty simple. You simply just go to File, Export, and FBX. And once you select that, you can just simply decide to export it wherever you want. I'm just gonna create a new folder and I'm gonna call it interior SS. I'm just gonna call it maybe main underscore sofa. Export FBX, and now we can just go back to Unreal Engine. And in Unreal Engine, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be going to File, New Level, and I'm just going to be creating a brand new empty level. So just create that. Also press Control S so that we can save this level. I'm just going to call it Interior SS. Press Save All and Control S. Right. So with this, we can simply go ahead and start to build out our scene. So for that, firstly, I'm just going to be creating a landscape so that we have sort of like a base point to work with. And then I'm just going to go to Window, Environment Light Mixer, and I'm just going to be creating a basic lighting setup. So the basic lighting setup consists of a skylight, atmospheric light, sky atmosphere, volumetric cloud, and height fog. If I just close that, you're going to see that we have a basic sky and a whole lighting setup, which looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to go ahead and create a shape, which is going to be a cube. And by the way, right now, one thing which you're noticing is that this shadow is pretty black and it looks very unrealistic. So to fix that, I'm simply going to go to Skylight and I'm just going to turn on real-time capture. So that's going to make our shadows look a lot more realistic. And I'm just going to be turning on the snapping of all these. So let me move it down slightly. And let me scale it down in this axis, something like that. And then I'm just going to be scaling it up like that. So that we can sort of start to build out our scene. I'm not going to add the walls for now. Before adding the walls, what I'm going to do is that, let me actually get rid of this landscape now, because I think our cube is enough. Just press Save All. Now we're ready to import that sofa. So I'm just going to go to my content folder. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to create a new folder called Interior SS. And here I can just import all my assets. So I'm just going to go to where I exported that model. And I think it was in this Interior SS folder, main sofa right here. So I'm just going to be dragging this inside of our scene. Press Import All. Now we just have to wait for it to import. So now the asset has been imported, and now you're going to see that we have all these separate sort of meshes which combine to make that sofa. So I'm just going to be selecting the first one. I'm going to shift select the last one so that we have all of them selected, and then I'm just going to drag them in to our scene. And I think it looks pretty good, doesn't it? I think it looks pretty decent and we can work with this. Right, so I'm just going to move it down slightly. Let me turn off snapping. Let me move it down so that it is resting on our floor. That's cool. I think the position of this is pretty fine as well. Let me move this slightly here. And I think our position is pretty good. Right, so now we can just start to build the whole scene along with this. So we have the sofa. Let me just add a coffee table now. So for the coffee table, what I'm going to do is that let me get rid of this sofa. From this, I'm just going to right click the corner sofa and I'm going to click select objects. Now I am assuming that you know the basics of Blender 3D. So if you don't know that, I would recommend you to check out my Blender course first and then come back to this. Because usually before starting to learn Unreal Engine, you are recommended to you at least know one 3D software like Blender or Maya or something like that. So I'm just gonna be searching for a coffee table, and I want to go for something a little more artistic, like this one right here, this one. So maybe, yeah, how about that? I think that should be pretty good. Art design, luxury marble coffee table. Let's wait for it to download. Also, you can export multiple assets at once if you want to, because obviously just exporting one asset and then just waiting for Blender to download another asset, then exporting that and importing it to Unreal Engine, it's very time consuming and very inefficient. So we can just add multiple objects in one scene, and then we can just export them all at once. So I'm just gonna do that now. So apart from our coffee table, we basically need a lamp as well. So I'm just gonna search for a lamp. Let's see what we have. Right, so we have a lot of these really good options. Maybe something like that. I'm just gonna get that wall lamp, and I'm also gonna get this luxury lamp as well. Now, when you are basically importing multiple assets, what I would recommend you to do is basically convert all these into one asset. Also, this coffee table has come inside of this what do you call it? This wall lamp collection. So I'm just gonna be dragging it out like that, and now you're gonna see that we have 3 assets in our scene. However, the problem with this is the fact that, for example, this coffee table right here, this has multiple assets, right? So for example, it has this top part, it has this bottom part, and it has these separate parts, right? And so exporting these inside of Unreal Engine is going to be a slight bit of a hassle for us. So I just want to convert all of them into one mesh. So how exactly do we do that? We simply select all of them by selecting the first one and then shift selecting the last one so that we have all of them selected. And now we can just press Ctrl J on my keyboard, and when I press Ctrl J, it's all going to convert into just one mesh like that. So that's perfectly what we want. Let's do that with the other assets as well. So I'm just going to be selecting all these, and we basically have a point light in this which we don't want, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm going to select all these, Control J, and that should be it as well. And similarly for this wall lamp, I think this wall lamp is just one asset by default, so I don't think we need to do anything with that. Now right now you're going to notice that obviously all these assets are basically intersecting with each other, and they don't really look correct, but we don't need to worry about that because we're obviously going to have them as separate assets inside of Unreal Engine, so we can just move them and place them wherever we want. So I'm just going to go back to, yeah, also if you want to import this model from Sketchfab, you can just simply download it, and let me show you how to import this inside of Unreal Engine as well. So once you open the zip file, you're going to have the source file and the textures file. So you can just simply open the source file first, and you can just drag this FBX out anywhere you want. I'm just going to drag it in on my desktop, and then I'm just going to be dragging it inside of Unreal Engine like that. Press import all, and then you're going to notice that we have the sofa in our scene as well. Perfect. So this does come with textures from, what do you call it, from Sketchfab. However, we don't really want to use that because this texture is a little too grungy and old school looking for our liking. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be basically I'm going to be applying another texture to this later on when we are working on the texturing of this scene. So let me just rotate this like that, 90 degrees, and let me place it somewhere there. And let's see what else we want. Let's go back to our reference. So maybe we want some plants, some dead plants. So you can maybe search for a plant and make sure that free first is selected if you want free assets. And I basically want some dead plants. I think something like that should be good. Let me just add that. And apart from that, I mean, all this comes down to your personal preference because I think that's good. Or is it? You can even add stuff like this, like a straw basket, in your scene. It's gonna make it look very old school, if that's what you're going for. And you know, we can maybe even add a guitar in our scene. Also, once we imported this branches asset, we want to make sure that we convert these into one asset as well. So I'm just gonna press Ctrl J so that we have it converted into one. And apart from that, how about we search for dead plants? Let's see what we come up with. So we have this dead tree. Let me download that. It's just decorations at this point because we have the main what do you call it? The main assets which we wanted in our scene, and we just need some decorations. I think we're good for now. We can add more things if you want. Let me just search for ways. Let's see if we have good ways. How about something like that? Let me download that. Make sure to convert it into one asset. There are two. Just Control J, and now I think we're good to go. Just make sure to collapse all these collections so that we can see how many assets we have. We have around like 6 or 7 assets. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be going to File, Export, and FBX. And let me just call this Assets 01, because this is sort of like an asset pack which we are creating for ourselves. And now I'm just going to be importing this inside of Unreal Engine. So I'm going to right click here. Actually, instead of right clicking, I'm simply going to be just dragging it in. Let me close this folder and let me just drag this Assets1 FBX in our scene. Click import all, just wait for it to complete. So now our assets have been imported. We have some errors, but I'm just going to go ahead and ignore them. And now if I just go down, actually if I go up, you're going to see that we have all our assets imported. So I'm just going to be selecting all of them, and I'm going to be dragging them in our scene like that. And after that, we can obviously move them individually. So actually, let me just undo that. Let me drag them all in, however, on the side, so that I can easily just take one of them and move them apart. And so this is going to be our coffee table. So I'm just going to scale that up. Make sure to scale that up uniformly. And I'm just going to rotate it like that. Or like that, maybe. I think that should be good. And then maybe move it across like that. And I think it looks pretty good. Apart from that, we can also drag this lamp. Just drag it across. Maybe place it right there. And I'm going to be scaling it up slightly. Like that. And I think it looks pretty decent. Then we can maybe take this as well and scale it up. And then maybe place this one and on this corner. And then we can maybe take this waist thing. Or actually, let me take this thing right here. And let me place this on top of this, what do you call it? Yeah, this stand right here. Let me place this on top of it. And move it up and just make sure to place it precisely. You can even go to the top view, the top orthographic view, so that you have a better idea of where to place it. And I think that should be good. Now I'm just going to take this thing right here. And then I'm going to be dragging it and placing it on this table. We can also import some books from the Megascans asset library and place them in our scene as well. And so this is going to go on the wall. So before that, let me just create the walls first. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be selecting my floor. I'm going to hold Alt on my keyboard and I'm going to be moving it across. And then I'm going to be rotating it like that. 90 degrees exactly. Make sure that you have your rotation snapping turned on so that you can move it precisely. And so I'm just going to be moving it across. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to be leaving a slight bit of a gap between the floor and the wall. It's just going to create this shadow effect on the corners, which I personally really like. But obviously this comes down to your personal preference. So I'm going for a very tall, sort of ceiling look. I'm just going to set it there, and let me place this right there as well. Just leave a slight bit of a gap. Between the wall and the floor. I think that should be good. Now what we can do is we can simply select this, both of these. So go to rotation mode, press and hold Alt on my keyboard, and then I'm going to be rotating them 90 degrees like that. Let me go to my top view, and so now I'm just going to be placing them. Go to movement tool, and I'm going to be placing them like that. Somewhere like that, and then move it across. That should be good. Let's go back to our perspective mode. Let's see how it looks. And I think our scene looks pretty good, doesn't it? We can add a ceiling as well, but I'm not going to do that for now because otherwise we won't get any light in our scene, which is not something we want for now. We are going to be creating windows later on, so don't worry about that. Also, I think this whole room is pretty small at the moment. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be going to my top view again. I'm going to be selecting the floor, and then I'm going to be scaling it up, something like that. And then I can maybe just move 2 of these back. Then scale them up as well. Something like this. Now this part might be getting a little repetitive, but what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to spend a lot of time planning your scene beforehand so that you don't have to sort of just eyeball these movements. I'm doing it because I want to show you guys how to sort of do the process. However, I would recommend you guys to sort of plan your scene out in advance if you are making a proper scene for, let's say, a client or something like that. And you know what? I'm just going to be moving all these assets to one corner. So I'm just going to select all these assets. Let me select all this stuff. And the sofa as well. And then I'm going to be moving it to one corner. Like that. I think that should be good. We can obviously add more assets to others to the other sides of the room as well. But I think for now, this should be good. Right, so now let me just go ahead and place this light on the wall. So let me just first rotate it 90 degrees like that. And then I'm just going to be moving it across, moving it up. Then let's just place it like that. And I'm actually going to be having 2 of these. Okay, so I don't know if I rotated it a little more than I should have. Okay, I think this lamp is a little misoriented, I think. Let me just rotate it like that. Then move it forward. That should be good. And I think it looks pretty good. And that is a pretty good position for the light. Maybe move it up slightly and then maybe duplicate it by pressing Alt on my keyboard. Then maybe having 3 of these. Not 3 actually. Let me just have 2 of these. But then move it up quite a lot. I think that should be good. Then we can maybe have a large painting right there. So actually, let me just go ahead and add the painting for now. So for the painting, let me just save everything, by the way. Press save all because I don't want you to lose any progress. And just wait for it to complete. So I'm just going to go to add Quixel content, and we can just go to Unreal Bridge. Now I'm pretty sure you know what this is. We can basically import Megascans assets from this. So I can just search for frame. And so we're going to have a lot of these painting frames here. And let me just download this one right here. Decorative picture frame. You can just download it. I think medium quality should be fine. And then you can just add it. Just press add twice and it's going to add it and browse over to where you saved it. Browse over to the location of this asset. And then we can just drag it right there. And I think it looks pretty good. However, it is a little old school, which I think should go with our scene. I mean, our scene is a little artistic, isn't it? And then we can maybe scale it up. Oops. Scale it up like that. I think that should be good. Let me move it slightly there. Maybe a little down. And we have to basically put a picture inside this, right? So for the picture, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the internet and I'm going to search for abstract painting. And you can just go to either unsplash.com or maybe pexels.com. These are some free, what do you call it, free stock image or stock footage websites from where you can get a lot of these really cool paintings. I think this one looks really nice, doesn't it? Let me download that. Download free. The credits for this picture goes to Steve Johnson. Thanks, bro. And once you have downloaded that, you can simply drag that inside of Unreal Engine and you can just drop it in like there. And then what you can do is you can simply go ahead and just create a new shape, which is going to be a cube. And then you can just bring that forward, something like that. Make sure to place it such that it covers the frame and it looks good as well. Something like that. And then you can just drag that image on that, what do you call it, that cube, and it's going to look pretty good, doesn't it? It looks pretty good. Perfect. So our scene is coming along pretty well. The frame is a little too thick in my opinion. I think it would have been better if it was a little basically not so thick, but I think we can work with that. Anyway, so I think we need some chairs. So for the chairs, you basically have a few options. You can either just use Blender and BlenderKit to just import some chairs as well, or you can, another thing which you can do is you can simply open Unreal Engine, and I'm going to be using a pack which is made by sort of like an asset pack which is made by Unreal themselves, and it's called the Chairs and Tables pack. So you can just go to the Epic Games Launcher. The Epic Games Launcher is basically the app which you used to install Unreal Engine. Also, just save everything, by the way. So you can just open the Epic Games Launcher. So once you're in here, you can just simply go to the Unreal Engine tab, then just go to the Marketplace tab. And once you're in the Marketplace, you can just search for Chairs and Tables. And so basically, you can just search for free as well. Just click free. I think it wasn't called this then. I think I'm just gonna search for chair. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, this one right here. It's called the Twinmotion Chairs and Tables Pack 1. And you have a lot of these really cool chairs and tables inside of this pack, which you can use inside of your scenes. So you can just, what do you call it? You can just download this pack and then you can add it to your project. Just click add to project, show all projects. And then you can just select whichever project you want to add it to. So I want to add it to this one. And it says that it's not compatible with Unreal Engine 5.1. So I can just add it to the project with 5.0. And just click add to project, and this should ideally appear right here. Yeah, that's where it is. TM Chairs and Tables Pack 1. And the download size of this, I think, is around a few gigabytes. Let me just show you the exact download size. Yeah, it's around 2.8 gigabytes. So you can just download that, and then you can open this folder right here. You can go down to Chairs and Tables, Chairs, and you have a lot of these chairs right here. You can just choose whichever one you want from these. And so, how about something like this? I'm just going to be importing a few chairs, and then we're going to see which one looks the best. We can obviously decide from them later on. But for now, I'm just going to import all the ones which I think look decent. And so, as you can see, you have quite a lot of variety in these. Yeah, and you also have a lot of these tables. However, I don't think I'm going to need any table. Maybe I can use like a side table or something like that. Let's see if we find something interesting. I think we're good. I don't think we need that many tables. Okay, so among these you can just choose whichever one you want. I think I'm gonna choose this one right here. Let me get rid of these two. I think this one looks really nice, and then I can just rotate it like that, and then place it like that. Maybe even duplicate it like that, and then place it right there as well. And I think it looks pretty good. Yep. Now this is a little subjective. If you think your chairs are not looking that great, then you can just not add them. But I think they look pretty decent, so I'm just going to add them. Right, so I think our scene is coming along pretty well. Let's see if we have anything else left. I think we're looking pretty decent. We can maybe fill this wall up with some paintings and stuff like that as well. So let me search, let me go to Quixel again, and let's see if we have any other frames as well. So let's go to frame. Yeah, so we have this damaged picture frame, which is not exactly what I'm looking for. I think something like that should be good as well. Or maybe we can just duplicate this exact frame and then we can just change the painting inside of it. So I think that's going to be a decent option as well. I'm just going to duplicate it like that. Bring it forward. And so the thickness of this cube is quite a lot, but it doesn't really matter that much because obviously it's not visible. Just place it right there. Move it back. And so now we can just look for another painting. So I'm just going to go back to Unsplash. Let's look for something similar. I'm just going to scroll down so that we can find maybe something similar. I think that should be good. This is again made by Steve Johnson. So thanks, buddy. And just wait for it to download. And I'm just going to drag it inside of Unreal Engine. Drop it right there and place it like that. I think it looks pretty decent, doesn't it? We can maybe scale this up slightly. Actually, not slightly. I want this to be pretty large. One second. I'm just going to move it right there. And I'm going to have to now scale this cube separately. Because obviously the scale of the cube and the painting are not uniform. I think it's a little too large. I think I made it a little too large. So I'm just going to scale it down. I think something like that should be good. Is the painting a little too similar? I think it is. We can maybe even go for something a little colorful. Again, Steve Johnson. Thanks, man. And let's try for something. Let's try something like this. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think it looks pretty decent. And once we start to sort of add colors and textures to our scene, I think it's going to come along pretty well. And so let me just make sure nothing else is left. Then we can start to work on the texturing. But I think we can add some more things as well. We can maybe add a carpet underneath this table. And we can maybe add some more stuff on the table as well. So let me first do that. I'm just going to go to add Quixel content. And I'm just going to search for books. And so we have a lot of these books which are pretty good. I'm just going to download this one, Floral Handcover Book. Let me just place that on the table. Let me move it up. Like that. And then we can maybe add another one. I think that should be a good one. Decorative handcover book. Let me just add that on top of this. And let me just move it slightly up. I think we need one more book and then we'll be good to go. Let's add that one. White and blue. Let's move it up. And then rotate it. 180. We can maybe sort of switch the position of these two books. So I'm just going to rotate them like that. 180 degrees. And then we can bring them down. I think that looks pretty good. Yep, I think the effect it's giving is pretty decent. You can maybe sort of make the books a little uneven as well. Alright, so I think it looks pretty decent. Next up, what we can do is let's go back to our reference. Let's go to Pinterest and let's find some other references as well. Because I don't think we should sort of confine ourselves to just one image. Let's work on the ceiling, yeah. So what I want to do for the ceiling is that, let me just save everything, by the way. Just save all. Let me just duplicate the floor. Hold Alt, move it up like that. And now we're not going to have any light, of course, but just give me a second. We are gonna start working on the lighting as well. So for now, I'm just gonna click this lit button right here, and let's go to unlit mode so that we can better see what's going on. Actually, instead of the unlit mode, Let me just create a light because I think that's going to give us a lot better results. Let me just go to add lights, and then let's just add a rect light. This is obviously temporary. It's just to see what we're working with, so that at least it doesn't look that bad. I think it's good. All right, so now what I'm going to do is that, yeah, let's go back to our reference. Yeah, let's work on the ceiling. So for the ceiling, what I'm going to do is that I think it looks pretty decent already. However, I think we need some ceiling lights as well. So let me just go to Blender again. Let me search for ceiling lights. I don't think I'm spelling ceiling correctly, but I think it's fine. Let's see if it comes up with something. I think this one looks really nice. Let's add that. You can add that as well. I think that's going to be pretty cool. Ceiling square lamp. And then we can maybe add some of these light bars as well. So I'm just going to get the ceiling lamp collection out there. And so also, by the way, I can just get rid of all this stuff. And then let's actually get rid of all these collections, and let's just start from scratch, because obviously we don't need all those assets again, right? I just need this ceiling lamp. And let's see if we need anything else as well. Let's look for something. You can even go for something a little more fancy like this. However, I think I'm going for a more minimalist design. I think just one ceiling lamp should be enough, in my opinion. Yep. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to be importing this. Actually, let's just confirm if we need anything else, because if we do, then we might need to just import all that again, which is going to be a little bit of a hassle. Let's actually add a window as well. Yeah. Let me search for window. Because obviously we're going to need window as well, right? I think something like that should be good. You can obviously add a different one if you want. However, I think that should be good, because I'm basically going to make the window sort of like a whole wall window. The length of it is going to be equal to the whole wall. Let me make sure that this is just one asset. Yep, it is. And perfect. Let me make sure that this ceiling lamp is also one asset. It is not. I'm just going to be selecting all these and press Ctrl J. Let me select all these manually. I'm going to select all these, Ctrl J. I don't think we need this one right here. Let's just join them. Yeah, so I think we're good to go with these. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be... Yeah, let me just export this. So I'm just going to go to File, Export, FBX. And then I can just call this, for example, like assets2. Let's export that, and let's go back to our folder. Yeah, so interior SS right here. I'm just going to create a new folder in this, and I'm going to call this 2, so that we can sort of make our scene a little more organized. And we are going to be working on the organization of our scene in just a bit as well. But let me just open that asset2. Let's import that, import all. And now we can just wait for it to import. Just ignore all these errors. And let me just first import this window. Let's place it right there and rotate it 90 degrees. I'm just going to place it right there for now, and we're going to be working on it in just a bit. And then let's select the ceiling lamp. Let's add it to the ceiling. I'm going to rotate this like that, 180 degrees. And then I'm going to be scaling it up quite a lot. And then we can maybe scale it up in these two axes as well to make it wider. This bulb doesn't really look that good, does it? I think it was better in this one, wasn't it? Okay, so it was the same. Never mind. Maybe we need to scale it down slightly. I think that should be good. Yeah. All right, so I think our scene is almost complete. Now let's start to work on the, what do you call it? Let's start to work on the lighting and the texturing.